Hello everyone, welcome to Guru Squad. My name is Ahmed. Today we're going to cover copying to Azure Blob Storage using GS RichCopy 360. The first thing you want to do to create a job is to right-click anywhere in GS RichCopy 360. Once you have it open, you go to the Jobs tab, right-click and say Create a New Job. If you're going to copy to Azure Blob Storage, you want to select Expert Users. And then you would give job a name. So we'll go ahead and create test to Azure Blob Storage. Find the location. So we're going to go ahead and browse to it. You could either browse to it or just if you have the path copied from Windows Explorer, like that, you can right-click and copy, come here and paste to it. Then if you want to select copy as root folder, basically copy as root folder means it's going to create the data folder onto the destination as well as its sub-content. So we're going to select cloud. And then we click on the drop down and select the Azure Blob Storage. These are just some cloud providers that you see currently, but later on we'll be integrating many more cloud providers. So Azure Blob Storage. And then you want to select the plus sign to type in whatever aliases, the alias that you have for Azure Blob. So this is just a label. So this is Azure Blob Storage test. Now the account name, we're going to go ahead and go to open up Azure. And then we go to you click on your Azure Blob Storage that you're going to use. This is the account name. So you're going to right click on and say copy. And then we go ahead and we get the shared key. So you could use one of the keys you want. So once you go to the Azure Blob Storage, you click on access keys. That's how you find it. So you're going to click on show keys. Now we'll change those keys after the example, but this is just to show you how it's done. You select key 1 or key 2. Right click on it and say copy. And you paste. Now we've selected it. Go ahead and click save. So now we have Azure Blob Storage here selected. This is the authorization we're going to use to authenticate against our blob storage. Then you click on the browse button. That opens up the Azure Blob Storage. Check the box. We've got nothing on there right now, basically, so we're going to go ahead and check the box that we want to copy to this location. Or you could browse through the directory tree and eventually have additional folders and you want to place them somewhere in there. Click OK. We can either copy changes only. That means it's going to skip if there are any files that are not in the destination. It will skip them if they have not changed. But files that have been modified or new that don't exist in the destination, in the Azure Blob that is, then it will copy those files over. So we're going to go ahead and say copy changes. And we're going to go ahead and use 4 threads. We could use more if we wanted to. Logically, what you should use is when going to cloud, you want to take into consideration how much compute power you've got, the type of sub-storage system you have. Like if they're SSDs or they've got decent IOPS, then you could use higher threads, but also you want to take into consideration your network bandwidth. Since we're talking about bandwidth, Azure Blob Storage uses very strong APIs. They could literally take your bandwidth, consume most of your bandwidth if they can. And we're going to run 2 examples here. One example with us copying to Azure Blob Storage with no bandwidth throttling. And you'll see how much bandwidth it uses. So we're going to use 8 threads, save it. Now we can right click on the job and say start. This is about a 6.5 gigabyte job. I'm going to go ahead and click on where it says queued. It's about to run. And you can tell it's starting to copy. It's 60 files, about 5, almost 6 gigs. It's using 198 megabytes, 400 megabytes right now. That's about 400 is about 3.2 gigabits per second. It's times 8. So it completed in about 20 seconds. Now this is one of our cloud VMs. They're very powerful, they're highly connected, and they've got very little issues connecting to Azure Blob Storage. Now let's go ahead and try to throttle this so that it can only copy about 40 megabytes per second. So what we could do, that's not megabytes. So let's go ahead and click on close. We're going to basically rerun this job. So we go to a configuration, and we're going to set the bandwidth to, well, let's say 20 megabits per second. Ideally 20 megabytes per second, which is about 160 megs per second. You want each thread to get at least about 5 megabytes, which is 40 megabits. I'm going to go back here. Here it's telling you basically jobs that you configure to run as a service will take effect once you restart the GS RichCopy 360 service. Otherwise, jobs that are configured as logged in user. Logged in user, basically if you check the box down here, it says run as a service, then that means we have to restart the service. If you set bandwidth throttling, but because we're not checking that box, it's going to be okay. We're going to go ahead and rename that folder to data 2, just so that we create another folder. Because data is already existing under data. So we're going to copy data 2 to the root folder. But now we have bandwidth throttling, so we should see that running a little bit slower. Now it took about 20 seconds for the first job to complete. So we're running with the same number of threads, but we are throttling that job to about 20 megabytes per second. So you're going to see it roughly go around 20, 23, 18, and it won't go over. If you look at these are the threads that are running. When you see a star next to a thread, that means that thread is actually being throttled at the moment. And we're still at 20 megabytes per second. So even though it can go further more if it's unthrottled, but with throttling this way, it won't impact your network bandwidth in your data center. All right, now the job is completed. That same job that when we ran it earlier with no throttling in place, it took about 20 seconds to Azure Blob Storage. And then once we throttled it to 20 megabytes per second, which is 160 megabits per second, if you want to convert it to megabits, that job took about 5 minutes and 15 seconds. This is just a good example of how bandwidth throttling works in GS RichCopy 360. When you throttle bandwidth, it actually applies to all jobs that are going to the cloud, whether it's Google, Azure Blobs, OneDrive, SharePoint, AWS S3, Dropbox, and whatever other cloud providers. If you set bandwidth throttling to 50 megabytes per second, then it will just dedicate that 50 megabytes per second, which is roughly 400 megabits per second, for all the jobs to share. They can't together in total go beyond that throttled amount bandwidth. All right, well, hopefully that was informative, and thank you for watching.